Now that the NHL regular season has come to a close and 15 NHL teams had their seasons come to an end, we're starting to see an increase in NHL trade rumors. In today's video, we're going to discuss a lot of the rumors circulating regarding the St. Louis Blues, the Buffalo Sabres, and the Montreal Canadiens. And that's coming up next. Welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams. So if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, today we're going to be discussing some NHL trade rumors. Obviously we have 15 NHL teams whose seasons are now over, which means there's 15 fan bases and 15 organizations in the NHL that are disappointed their teams are not in the playoffs. So obviously with that comes solutions on how to improve for next year and beyond. So obviously that's going to stir up some rumors, and there's been all kinds of speculation starting to circulate here over the last couple of days as teams have had their season-ending media availability. So we've seen a lot of comments from players, coaches, GMs, etc. So obviously that tends to stir things up a little bit and kind of get some speculation going on what these teams may be looking to do in the off-season to improve for next year. So as I mentioned, there's mainly three teams we're going to be talking about: the Habs, the Blues, and the Buffalo Sabres. Now before we jump into that, I just want to do a quick reminder that we're doing a 1,000 subscriber giveaway. So as soon as we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're over 900 now. So the sooner we get there, the sooner we're going to do that giveaway. We are going to be doing one of the brand new NHL Adidas hats that were released this season. So if you can help us get there any quicker, it'd be greatly appreciated. So if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. And if you also could share this channel and video with a friend who may be a big hockey fan and haven't discovered our channel yet, that would be greatly appreciated as well. So now let's jump into today's topic, the NHL trade rumors. Let's get started here with the St. Louis Blues. Obviously the Blues season came right down to the final game against the Colorado Avalanche. They went into that final game with a 1-point lead. All they had to do was not lose in regulation, and that's exactly what did happen. They lost in regulation. They couldn't get it done. The Colorado Avalanche and Nathan MacKinnon kind of took over the game and ended the Blues season a little bit early. So now the Avalanche go on to make the playoffs, and the Blues season comes to a crashing halt. Obviously, the Blues kind of had an up and down season. We were all kind of taken a little bit by surprise at the trade deadline when we saw them move Paul Stastny, which was kind of all the rumors leading into the trade deadline. It's not a name that really came up. Didn't really suspect the Blues to be sellers. They were in the mix. I didn't expect them to be big buyers either. I kind of thought they'd hold their ground and stick with what they had. But you know, at the end of the day, I guess they did get a pretty good return on Paul Stastny. It's just unfortunate that they weren't able to get into the playoffs. One of the big things I've been seeing lots of speculation on is the goaltending situation with the St. Louis Blues. They have two things they need to look at this year. Obviously, one, Carter Hutton, who is arguably the stronger, more consistent goaltender for the Blues this year, is an unrestricted free agent. So they need to decide if they want to re-sign him. Then they have Jake Allen, who is under contract for another, I think it's 3 more seasons, I believe, at a little over $4 million, who really, Jake is a pretty good goaltender, has had a fair bit of success at the NHL level, but over the last couple of seasons, since he's been the starting goaltender, we have seen issues with consistency. So there is a question of whether or not they're going to stick with him, hope he can bounce back and put together a solid, consistent year, or do they move him to a new change of scenery, maybe re-sign Carter Hutton, let him run with the ball, and see what happens from there? I don't really think they have any goaltending prospects that are ready to step into the NHL at this point. So if they were to trade Allen, then there's obviously they'd either need to be getting a goalie in return, or they'd have to have plans to dip into the free agent market to see what might be available out there. There's not a lot of goalies really, like not strong ones at least. Antti Raanta was one of the stronger ones available, but he's now re-signed with the Coyotes, so he's not going to be on the market. So based on comments from Carter Hutton, he's indicated that he would rather be not necessarily a full starting position, but more of a 1A, 1B situation. So I think he obviously has earned more playing time. So it's kind of up to the Blues. Do they want to re-sign Hutton, kind of give them the expectation that him and Allen are going to be a 1A, 1B? So we're going to kind of be back to what we were when it was Jake Allen and Brian Elliott? Or do they give Carter Hutton the ball, let him run with it, and give Jake Allen a fresh start? So obviously I think Jake Allen is still a pretty solid goalie. He's still young enough with a decent contract that, you know, if they did make a move, obviously I think they could get a pretty decent return. They do have other areas that they could certainly use an improvement on, but it's hard to say who would be the team that would be reaching out to get them. There's certainly other teams that could use goaltending. There's no doubt about that. So I don't think there'd be any lack of interest. I just don't know if the return would make the most sense for the Blues. It kind of depends on what team would be in the mix there. So at this point, there's no direct rumors that they're going to trade Jake Allen, but there is some speculation that they might think that a fresh scenery for him might be best for his career, and it might be best for the Blues to move on and give Carter Hutton the ball and get him re-signed. Now Hutton is a little bit older than Allen, so they probably wouldn't want to sign him too long-term, commit too long with too much money, since he is a little bit older, a little bit of a late bloomer. But they give him maybe a 1 to 2 year contract. Give him a raise, let him be the starting goalie, and then maybe by then you'll have somebody else in their system ready to jump into the starting position. So leave some comments down below. What do you think the Blues do with their goaltending situation moving forward? Do they re-sign Carter Hutton? Do they consider Jake Allen? Do they do one or the other, maybe both? Hard to say, so leave some comments and give me your thoughts, and we'll move on from there. Next team up is the Buffalo Sabres. Now, one of the most interesting exit interviews I saw was Buffalo Sabres center Ryan O'Reilly, where he kind of talked about the fact that they got used to losing. The team kind of seemed to be almost okay with losing, and this created a really negative environment. So just listening to his comments, it was really quite surprising. Obviously, I know what the team went through this year. That franchise has been obviously struggling for quite some time. I mean, any Sabres fans watching this, I don't need to remind you that it's been a really long time since you've been out of the draft lottery and into a playoff position. It's been a really miserable decade, really, for Sabres fans, which is unfortunate because they've had a lot of high draft picks and they've been, they haven't been able to land the #1 pick in quite some time. Obviously, during this last decade, it has not happened, but they've had a lot of top 5, top 10 picks. And even then, this franchise still isn't where it wants and needs to be more competitive. So with other young centers in the system, like Jack Eichel, like Casey Middlestat, could we possibly see Ryan O'Reilly get moved? Now, obviously, Ryan O'Reilly is a top-notch two-way center, arguably one of the top, probably 4 or 5 two-way defensive players in the NHL. Certainly deserves to be, in a lot of seasons at least, in consideration for the Selke Trophy. He's very good at stealing the puck, turning the puck over, great on face-offs, and he's very offensive as well. So Ryan O'Reilly is a tremendous hockey player. I think they could get a pretty decent return for him. Obviously, they have a lot of areas that need improvement on the Sabres, between defense, secondary scoring up front. Even goaltending is a question mark. There's a lot of question marks with the Sabres. So obviously, though, before we get into trading season again, we're going to have the draft lottery completed, so we'll know where they're going to pick in this year's draft. So if they're fortunate enough to win the lottery, for example, they'll know they're getting a tremendous defenseman in Rasmus Dahlin. So that'll certainly take the pressure off maybe doing too much on the D side of things. But still, Ryan O'Reilly is a tremendous hockey player. Based on his comments, I think it probably would be best for him to get out of Buffalo to kind of rejuvenate his career, and maybe with the likes of Middlestat and Eichel ready to be the top 2 centers in Buffalo, maybe they could move him out while his value is still pretty good and improve other areas of the team. So let me know what you think about Ryan O'Reilly's comments, and do you think it's likely that he could get traded this offseason? Now lastly, we're going to discuss the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, the Habs had not a really good season as well. All kinds of speculation about Habs players all season long. We didn't really see a whole lot happen. We saw them trade Thomas Plekanec at the deadline. Max Pacioretty and Alex Galchenyuk are 2 names that came up a lot during the season. Neither one of them got moved, but listening to Marc Bergevin's comments at the end of season media availability, he kind of talked a lot about how the attitude was really bad and the attitude needed to change, and there was really a big focus not only on performance but attitude. So to me, that tells me that they're not happy with the culture of that locker room. They're not happy with the leadership of that team on the ice, which starts and ends with Max Pacioretty. He's got the C on his sweater, which comes with a lot of pressure, especially in a city like Montreal. And I think with his contract where it is, he's got 1 year left at a very, very reasonable figure. So I think that it's quite likely that I'm not sure that I can't say it's going to happen for sure, but I can almost guarantee that the Habs are going to heavily pursue a Max Pacioretty trade. Of all the players we talked about, that could go down this summer, that's a deal I wouldn't be completely shocked to see done at the NHL draft in June in Dallas, Texas this year. So we'll see what happens, but personally, between Galchenyuk and Pacioretty, I wouldn't be surprised to see one or both get moved. I mean, when it comes to Galchenyuk, there has been issues over the years, kind of reported off and on. It's hard to say what's true and what isn't,
regarding his off-ice performance and attitude and maturity level, that type of thing. So maybe Bergevin had some of those comments kind of geared towards him as well. Based on Galchenyuk's own personal comments and the media availability, it didn't sound like they were willing to give him a chance to play center again. Sounds like that experiment is all but done. As long as he's a Montreal Canadian, he's going to be a winger by the sounds of it. And to be honest, I'm just not sure that he really fits in with how Claude Julien likes to play, have the style of play for his Montreal Canadiens. I'm not really sure Claude Julien's the greatest coach for the Habs. He is a great coach. He's had a tremendous, successful career. But I don't know that he's really what that team needed. But obviously they brought him back. They signed him to a fairly long-term contract, to my understanding. So I don't see any changes between coaches and GMs in that position happening for a while. So therefore, we're likely going to see player changes to see how it goes, so they can save their jobs and improve things for that franchise. So I think there's a pretty good likelihood that we're going to see Max Pacioretty, if not him and Galchenyuk, both move this offseason. As far as Pacioretty goes, I think the same teams we talked about before the deadline would be interested again, like the Blues, for example. That might be another time to revisit that, because obviously the Blues were linked to adding another scoring winger. There's other teams that could be interested as well. Like I'd probably throw in like even Philly, New Jersey, San Jose. There's going to be a lot more teams jumping into the mix in the offseason as they have more cap room availability and more idea of their longer term roster outlook. So even the New York Islanders, I wouldn't rule them out as well, because a lot of things that happen with the Islanders this offseason is going to be determined by John Tavares, which is a whole other topic for another day. If you missed our previews for the Western and Eastern Conference playoffs and you haven't had a chance to watch those yet, we went through an in-depth analysis and did some predictions on who we thought would win all the series. There'll be a YouTube card up here with the Stanley Cup playoff prediction playlist. You can go through each conference, and then we had a third video where we discussed the full bracket and give you our predictions from the first round right through to the Stanley Cup. So obviously the playoff season is going to be a lot of fun to watch. So I hope you get a chance to watch lots of playoff games. There's all kinds of interesting series going on here now. If you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing. As I mentioned, we have a 1,000 subscriber giveaway coming up, so don't forget to subscribe if you're new. If you like this video, certainly give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. If you're new to the channel as well and you haven't followed us on Twitter, you're going to find our Twitter handle on the screen right here. We're very active on our Twitter account, so check that out as well. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time.